daar zijn we dan. Here we are. Hello, and welcome to my very first live stream about, in this case, Google Search Console and the connection with BigQuery. I told myself to speak slow. I'm going to try to speak slow. If I speak too fast, let me know in the comments. I hope that the comments are popping up on my screen. This is the first time I'm using this software. I think that through LinkedIn there are some challenges with the commenting. I don't think that actually works. So if you want to comment, you should be part of the StreamYard link, which is handy because you will also actually get the recordings afterwards sent to your inbox, so you can always watch it back later. Let's just dive in immediately because we only have an hour and there is a lot to cover, and because it's a live stream, who knows what's going to happen while we're doing this live. So let me share my screen. Actually, how do I do that? That is this one. I'll do a brief introduction about myself, and then actually we can go straight into all of the topics that we will be talking about. I had them actually on LinkedIn a second ago, so maybe I'll just put that on the screen so we can all see what we'll be talking about. I will try to cram all of these topics in the next 60 minutes. So we'll be talking about GCP for a little bit, setting it up so that you have billing enabled, because that's very important. A brief BigQuery tour, we'll also cover that. We will show how to connect a Search Console account to BigQuery. That's obviously what we're going to be doing here today and what it's all about. And then let's see how we can actually build a dashboard on top of all of that data. So we will be doing a bit of SQL, and obviously we'll be connecting datastudio to BigQuery instead of directly datastudio to the Google Search Console. If we manage by the end of this session, there will be a bonus, because there is also a new feature within Flipstream that will help you with this journey that we will be releasing hopefully beginning of next week, but fingers crossed for that. I'm going to wait for that till the end. And yes, it does have AI in its source integrated. Who am I to be talking about all of this? Pardon for the English-speaking viewers. It's in Dutch. Webflow still doesn't support native multilingual websites. So as soon as that is open, I'm going to translate everything into English as well. My name is Michel Kant. I'm an, could I say SEO veteran? I'm in SEO world for 13 years now, and I work for a lot of the nice brands in the Netherlands over the last 13 years. The last couple of years, I started working for myself, and I really niche down within the SEO industry on data. So I help organizations set up a data warehouse so that they could actually mature themselves from a data perspective, really start owning the data, transforming the data, structuring the data, making sure that, everybody can just build on top of it instead of having to recursively do the same tasks of cleaning data, etc., over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, I also built a company on top of this whole proposition, Flipstream. It is a company that I own, completely bootstrapped. We are a data provider, and obviously we also provide consulting on top of that, which kind of weaves in with everything that I just spoke about. Why am I the one talking about this? Well, we actually have a Search Console integration through the API. The difference is we offer obviously one property for free. Google offers all properties for free. So for everybody who only has one property, just go with the way that Google does it, unless you really need to have a backfill of your data, then you can still use Flipstream. If you have multiple properties to manage, then Google is not really an option, and I'll explain more about that later. What we'll try to do is I'll give away this dashboard for free over the next weeks, basically, and slowly but steadily we'll be building this dashboard, either through my website or through other content like these type of live streams. I will show also the dashboard in a second. I see that I didn't open that yet, but I will also show that in a second. Let me just do that now, actually, because that actually makes sense. Open here. Here we have my own website. Sorry, there are some versions where I also have customer data in there, and I cannot show that, obviously. I will have to show my own without other properties. That is this one. So here it is live. It is working, and you could build this on top of you could also build this on top of Google's data set. So you don't need the Flipstream connector for this per se. And I'll show you a little bit of the SQL that I use to create some of these filters later in this live stream. Very brief overview. It shows the standard clicks, impressions, the amount of index pages based on at least one impression. Everything is filterable. Here you have an overview where you also have everything filtered, of course, immediately on the devices. So you don't have to always do that. You can imagine a filter on brand and non-brand, obviously being very important. Like Flipstream itself as a website doesn't do a lot of traffic yet, as you can see, so it's not super exciting, but I have implemented this also for websites, like for clients who have 39 websites across the world. And then it's very nice to get like a proper overview of like how everything is going on a higher level, and then the ability to basically zoom in on the different properties that you're owning. Across the 39 websites, I can easily filter on brand versus non-brand. We even have there some custom filters for page type, which I will show also how you can build that with a very simple case when statement in SQL, which is the if-else statement in Excel. There's a rank tracker built in here. This is all still based on the Google Search Console data. You will be able to also build this yourself and import it here. If your website is over a year old and you have a backfill, or in the case of the Google Search Console direct integration, if you're a year from today, you will have that start having that year-over-year performance view as well, on how your keywords and URLs, etc., are all performing. Quick tip already, why not? When you are creating dashboards, always have a table on the bottom that contains the raw data of what the graphs are made of, so that you can quickly export this into a Google spreadsheet or CSV, wherever you want to work. Because that'll make your life very easy. Then you don't have to go back into SQL and basically set the same filters as what you did up here to find the same data and then export it, because you already have it here. Some other cool stuff that you can do, obviously structured data. I don't have that set up here, so it's empty. Obviously, you can get immediately a nice CTR curve of all of your data. So how is what's the actual CTR curve? Like, again, I barely have data, so this one is a bit weird. But yeah, that's very nice. You can immediately see it for brand, non-brand, or devices, whatever you want to filter it on, or immediately see it in one graph. Based on Christmas, you can just select Christmas. So yeah, it's a very nice dashboard to just have it up and running for you and your clients, or for your multinational SEO strategy, whatever your thing is. So let's get to it. I'm going to close some of this stuff and actually open up Search Console, because let's set it up for my personal domain. Google does have instructions, and I want to quickly go through those instructions to show you what is important if you ever want to do this and you don't have the playback of this video. This step is important. I'm going to show that as well, how to set up the API. It's really not complicated. It's 2 buttons, one search and 1 button, and then you're there. You also need to set up some permissions so that Google actually can write to your data warehouse. That is very important. And after that, you type in where you want the data to be sent to, where you want data to be stored, and you click on continue. Here's a catch. it takes 2 days or up to 2 days before you get your data. The other catch, I'll show you what we need to do now. We need to set up Google BigQuery. And let me open up. I actually have Google BigQuery somewhere. Here it is. So this is what it looks like when you log into console.cloud.google.com. This is Google's cloud platform, and Google's cloud platform is pretty cool. You can do a ton of things here, like literally whole of Flipstream is built on Google Cloud. Too much to explain for this session. What is important are three things: the billing, the IAM, and the BigQuery settings. As soon as you come here, you want to make a new project, probably, or you want to use an old project. Whatever you want to do, make it a generic name, because this is not per se going to be a project that is connected only to Google Search Console. It's very possible that you're going to use this Google Search Console connection as a first step, but you're actually going to do much more data synchronization later. So BigQuery has now the native GSC integration, but they also have a native YouTube integration. They have a native Google Ads integration. So you can, if you are also using those solutions for your marketing, for example, then you can actually also pull that data into your data warehouse, Google BigQuery. So give it more of a generic, whatever your company is, company name, a data warehouse, for example. You'll be also typing this a lot in the future. So don't give it some random weird name like this, where there's like characters and like whatever, because you will be typing this when you're going to work with SQL. Once you've done that, you've basically set up your data warehouse. So you just click create and you're done. It's set up, it works, no questions asked. The only thing that you need to do is search for billing and go to billing and make sure that you add a billing account. Search for billing, go to billing, add a billing account. When you set this up, it will ask you to fill in your company details, your credit card or bank account details if you're in the Netherlands. If you don't do that, the problem with BigQuery, for example, is that it will delete all your data in 60 days after it's created. You don't want that. Very annoying. So set this up as soon as you set up your project, and then you're really all set to go, good to go. That's step one of setting up your Google Cloud. This also allows you to connect to other solutions that use Google Cloud, and then you don't have to worry anymore about the billing. If you're worried about payments, don't be worried about payments. It's actually if you have just one website, the data that you're getting is quite trivial. It's not that much. BigQuery is set up to handle companies like Twitter, Snapchat, Spotify, to do queries on literally trillions of megabytes or gigabytes of data. It's huge what it can handle. When we are coming in with even a billion rows, it's going to cost you dollars or euros, not dozens of that. Of course, it kind of depends on how you work with BigQuery, but I will explain that a little bit later. You can definitely hurt yourself if you're not paying attention, but you have to be a real expert also to do that with one website, especially. It's basically impossible. What was the next step? So we have the GCP account set up. You've logged in with your Google account. You've created your project. It's very simple. You've searched for billing. You created a new billing account. You managed to get that up and running. Now let's have a look at what BigQuery looks like. Because actually BigQuery is completely empty. In my case, not, because I already have some data in there. But in general, BigQuery is completely empty. This is the interface of Google BigQuery. And there is a lot going on here, and there is a lot going on here. If you have access to multiple projects, then you will also actually see all these projects listed here. First things first, make sure you're actually selected the project that you want to work in, because then it shows up on the top. Easy. You will not have all of this. I have all of this because I've obviously been working in this before. Here's your project. This is a data set. You can consider this your Excel file. And within your Excel file, you actually have tables, sheets, right? And in BigQuery, you have tables. So this is the same. So we can, for example, open this, and then actually you have opened your Excel sheet within your Excel file of flipstream_GSC. Google has a slightly different naming convention for their data set and their tables. You'll see that in a second. Again, you see that a lot is happening here. What you see here happening is things that you can do with this data. So we've opened up this specific table. Here you have all of the column names. This is what the columns are representing, and if they can be nullable or not. If the company really goes on a limb, they usually also provide, or they provide also descriptions, so that if you're new to the data set, you actually can see what this specific column is about. When you click on details, you get specific details about the table, like, for example, how it's partitioned. Forget about that now. You can see how many rows are in there, how many gigabytes there are there, and how many gigabytes are old. And this is an important one. Costs, if you accrue costs for BigQuery, are generated in two ways. One, storage, simple. When I was 15, I had a hosting company, and it was a very small one. It was about 2003 or 4 or something. And I think, if I remember correctly, I was able to charge like 30 euros for 5 megabytes per month or something like that. It was like, compared to now, it's crazy, because Google charges for the storage of data 2 per month per gigabyte, right? 2 cents per month per gigabyte. So this 8 gigabyte cost me 16 per month. Not really, because after 90 days, because we don't update the data, after 90 days, it becomes 1 cent. So that is quite funny, right? Only 1 cent per month for, in this case, 7 gigabytes of data. So those are not costs that will dry you up as a business. Then there is preview. So you get to see a little bit of a preview of all of your data, right? So as you could see, I actually had here my own account. Here you see data of my own property, my own URLs, the dates, the queries, the search types, the clicks, the impressions. And this is the stuff that you're interested in. This is the stuff that you want to work with. We're going to be working with this data in a second. First, I'm going to show how to make the connection now that we have done a little bit of the preview between Search Console and BigQuery, and what you need to do to set that up. I'm going to actually have a bit of water here. So like I said, there are instructions here on what to do. The first thing that you need to do is this part. You need to make sure that the API for BigQuery is enabled, because they're going to use it. So how can you get there? Very simple. Ignore their instructions. Just go and search for a BigQuery API. You're immediately where you need to be. You don't need to search for it, because otherwise you need to go here, go to APIs and preferences, enable them. I'll just do it so you see it. You need to find actually the BigQuery API here. Like, I'm already using it, so it's here. And then you need to find your way actually to the same place, but I already have it enabled, so that's why I probably see this, and I can disable it here. If you're searching for it, you actually end up on the product page of the Google BigQuery API, and then you can just enable it here. That's the easy part. So that's in general the way of navigating through the Google Cloud Platform. Just use the search bar for everything that you need and try to find it in this way. It's way easier than searching in here, figuring out what their ideas are on how to group everything. No. So again, search for the BigQuery API, click on the BigQuery API, enable it, and you're done. Now, a little bit more interesting. Now we need to give this specific email address access to the BigQuery of the environment that we have here. So of this specific Google Cloud Platform. The way that you do that is you search for IAM. This is it. You just search for IAM and you go there. This is a very exciting view as well. Ignore just everything and just click on grant access. You just paste it in here. For everybody, this is the same email address because it is actually in their documentation. So you can just copy and paste this one. Find IAM, click on grant access, paste it in here. And now you need to select two roles. It is job user for BigQuery. So we have BigQuery job user. And it is also a data editor. So you can just type that with BigQuery data editor. And actually, when you look here, this is what they're saying here. We need to have access for BigQuery job user, and we need to have BigQuery data editor. Why? It gives them read and write access to your data warehouse, but not a delete or also delete to a certain degree, but they can't access other data sets, basically. That's what it comes down to. So it is quite limited to what they can do. I'm going to click on save here, updating policies updated. You can verify if you search for their email address that it's actually here now and that it has role BigQuery data editor and BigQuery job user. That's it. Now everything is set up for the export to get started. Now what they're asking here is to set up your Google Cloud Project ID, but you just created a new project right here. You need to use the project ID. I actually should copy that myself. Here is my project ID. Paste it in here, set it to Europe. It is possible because Google is just on your GCP that you're setting this up, that it needs a little bit of time to process all of this so that when you actually go here and you click on next, send it here. This is the name of the data set to Europe, and you say yes. It is possible that it's still thinking and processing the setup of the Search Console email address in your own GCP. This allows me to have a look at StreamYard. That's nice. It worked. Now, how can we verify actually that it worked? Let's go to BigQuery. BigQuery here. And now you will see this data set here. This data set is what Google will write to your data warehouse as soon as it has access. And it will also create this temporary data set. It's quite funny because we do the same with Flipstream. Because why do they do this? You need to verify that you have access to somebody's data warehouse, that you can actually create tables and write data to the tables. And in this case, also delete this specific temporarily table. And that's what I mean with they can delete tables, but they can delete tables that they created. And this is where the connection with Search Console is a little bit of a... They have made interesting choices. Let me phrase it like that. What we just did, you have to do for every single property that you want to connect to BigQuery. they do not allow you to send all of your properties to the same data warehouse, which means that you will have michelkant.searchconsole.table for my personal domain. For Flipstream, I have a specific data warehouse set up where they will send the Flipstream data. If I would have a huge domain with subfolders and I want to get all the data, I would have to, for all these subfolders that I have created separate properties for in Search Console, every single property needs its own data warehouse setup, which is very annoying. Especially if you're an agency, for example, if you need to do that for all your clients, good luck managing all of that. That's a bit of a pain in the butt, right? It's way nicer to have everything nicely organized like we do. And this is funny because I'm not saying that because we actually do that. When I heard that Google did this, of course I was bummed out because, it's a product that I have. But Google is very specific about this. If you want historical data, go use the Search Console API. And that's what we do, right? So we are connecting the Search Console API. But because that gives us more freedom, Google probably has to make these choices, not because they want everybody to have like 16 different BigQuery instances, but because they need to standardize a lot of things for tons and tons and tons of people who are going to use it and properties. Now it takes about 2 days before you will get your first data inside the data warehouse. So as soon as you set this up, you can't really do anything. You just got to wait it out. Unfortunately, I didn't have access yet as one of the few, especially interesting because I had this scheduled. So I don't have the data yet in my data warehouse because I only was able to set it up Sunday late. And I was hoping that it would materialize before now. But that is not going to stop us from continuing. I just can't show the data warehouse right now that contains all of this information. I can have a quick look to see if it did it right now. Let me see if I log into my own account. It might be there for Flipstream. No, okay. Oh, that's too bad. We're going to just stay here because now what we want to do is the following part is exactly the same, no matter if you actually have access already or if you're using your free property on Flipstream, doesn't matter. If you have SQL data, you can build this. And that's what it's about, right? We want to build that data set, change the data set, make sure that we can manipulate it ourselves and visualize the data ourselves. And we do that in BigQuery. So I'm just going to show BigQuery again here. Let me see, where are guys there. So we have BigQuery here, and that needs to go away. I'm just going to use my own property for now. Yeah, here also some handy stuff like this screen, and you haven't seen it even yet, because look, if we now actually do a query, that's what it starts to look like. If you then also want to do and see what happened, then you open this part up. You can find project history here and all the stuff that you've been doing. So this screen is a complete mess. If you have like a super small, I have a 49-inch screen here in front of me, but if you have a small screen, it's really tricky. So you want to keep this clean here, left bottom, click this away. And then here on the top, you can click that one away. And then here on the bottom, if you ever end up having this, you can click it away as well. So that you have a little bit more space here on working. If you end up finding yourself like this, you can, with two screens, you can always click this little arrow here and move the tab to the left pane. And then it becomes one big screen. I'm going to start over, close this, and show you what is now the next step. Because you preferably don't want to built on top of the raw data that you're getting from either Flipstream or another provider or Google. You preferably always want to take this data, transform the data in a format that you expect into a new table. What I tend to do for that when I just need something is I have this one here on the bottom called SEO reporting, and I start putting stuff in my SEO reporting data set. How do you create a data set? On these three dots here. Create data set. Just give it a random, no spaces, a random name. You can set it to multi-region or you can set it to a specific region. If you're from the north of the Netherlands, I believe Eemshaven is Netherlands 4, Europe West 4 or something. This one, I think that's Eemshaven. So that's if you're in the Netherlands. If you are working with people around Europe, then I would just suggest to do multi-region and just set it to EU. That's kind of my default choice. What they do is they make, it's kind of like a CDN for themselves. So they have like versions that are closer to wherever you're working, that they kind of spread out the data. But if you really need to have everything in the Netherlands, just use Europe West 4 and set it to region, specific region. When you do this and you just click on, you can, ignore the default maximum age, ignore all of this stuff. You don't need that. You can just create a data set and then it'll pop up here. It'll be empty because you don't have actually anything in there because we first need to write some SQL. This is where it gets tricky because now I kind of have to teach SQL in 10 minutes because we have 30 minutes to go. And I do want to specifically go into how to connect this data to your Looker instance so that you can actually start building filters and graphs. I can already see that I should probably host another session where we're actually building this specific dashboard or a page or 2 pages, because especially when you also want to work on design, it takes a little bit of time, right? But we'll probably get very far because it's not super complicated. The first thing you need is a piece of paper and a pen, because you need to write down where you're heading towards. Don't just start here. It's like with anything that you're coding. First write some stuff on paper before you start coding, because you need to know what you're working towards. Like, what is your next step? So I write a ton of stuff on paper, and then I start programming. SQL is not officially a programming language, although that is also debatable, yes or no. Long story short, I'm going to stay out of that debate. We have the table here, and now we want to start answering questions about the data in this table. This is also where I stopped earlier. So you still have buttons here on the top where you can do stuff with. Query is the most important one because we want to query this data. So that's where we're going to work with. You can kind of ignore all of these other ones because if you just want to explore the raw data, you can just do it as well. You can just do this, and then you get an instance for datastudio. That happens when you have a new account. You need to approve everything. And then it automatically, it connects datastudio to your data in the data warehouse. So this is a nice way to quickly play around with your data, and obviously you can start saving it. Don't do this too much. Like, you can use it for yourself, but don't start saving stuff based on this. Take a moment to sit down and query this data, create a data table on top of that, and start visualizing on top of there. Why? Well, you are going to want to manipulate this data before you're going to report on this. If we go back to this template, there is a query type, brand, non-brand, right? We had brand, non-brand in the data in the Looker Datastudio setup. Here you see I have page type. Those, and even here the filters for URL level 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have that standard in this data set, right? If you're connecting using the Search Console data, then you don't have property. You only have one property, but not multi-properties. So the data is not merged together yet. You'll want to do that in BigQuery. You have two options. You can create a new tab, or you can create a split tab. They are both the same, but they either do this or they allow you to do this. Now, technically, don't do this too much. All you need to do is type in the asterisk, and you will already see that this query will process a couple of kilobytes of data, and it'll run. Like I can, I don't remove it. I can run it with Command Enter, and there is no data in here for today. If I would set this to be lower than today, then it is going to actually render all of the data limited by 1,000 rows in the data set that I referenced. Here you can see why you're going to be typing the project name a lot and the project ID, because here you see my project ID. You'll be copy pasting it usually, but it's there. You need to type it. You need to work with it. This is an important one because this is your table name. And it's already there. If you're on a table and you click query, then it will automatically set up this skeleton for you to work with. If you simply click the plus, there's nothing there. So then you will need to type everything yourself from table name. And in our case, the data is always partitioned by date, so you always have to provide that as a filter. So that's what you see here. This is a good practice to always filter by date. Another good practice is, I know it's easy to write the asterisk, but you can see here now it's processing 11 megabytes of data, whereas 11 megabytes is not much, really. Google's free tier is really generous. You get 1 terabyte of processing, queries processing for free every single month. So I can do this query 10 times to get to 100 megabytes. Then I can do it another 10 times to get to 1,000 megabytes. And then I can do it another all the way until I get to 1,000 gigabytes, right? You can imagine that if you're adding Google Ads data later, if you're going to add Google Analytics data in there as well, or you work for like a large enterprise, and maybe you have 12 websites that you're managing and that you want to analyze, data that you're working with, especially the raw data, can run up into the gigabytes. Like the other day, I was running a query that said this will process 500 gigabytes when run. I only have to run it twice, and it'll be out of my one terabyte or free tier. What Google will then do is for every terabyte of data that you're querying, you pay $5. That's it, flat fee. There are other options. You can actually find the way that their pricing works by saying BigQuery pricing. And then you can ignore all the flat rate pricing. It's all about the on-demand pricing. And here you see the price that you're paying, basically. And now you also know what it's based on. It's based on this stuff that you're seeing here. So it's better practice to say, okay, I'm also only going to get the pages, the dates, and the clicks, for example. Then you can see that the query will only process 4 megabytes. Without going too much in depth, BigQuery is column-based in the background and not row-based like a traditional database. So it doesn't have to scan through every row. It scans through every column. If you're coming from Python, it's like a data frame. It's actually a series of columns. Which makes it more cheaper when you specify which columns you're going to be working with. If you click actually Command-Shift-F or Control-Shift-F, it will auto-format it for you. You can also do that, I believe, here. You can say format query, and then it'll make it look pretty when you started typing. Good. What do we want to do? We want to get to, let's say, a brand filter. The brand filter you decide based on the query. So we need to actually create a new column that says this query contains X, therefore it's brand, else it's non-brand. In Excel, because I like to go back to Excel, and because usually we as SEO specialists are very well, we know our way around Excel. In Excel, if you do an if-else formula, in BigQuery or in SQL in general, this is called a case when statement. So I could now say case when X equals something, then this, for example. And I can do as many of these as I want. So when you do a nested if-else formula in Excel, which becomes very annoying to write, this is very, very specific. You can keep doing this for as many values as you want, as long as you end it with, this is not even obligated to have the else, but you could say else other, and then you always end with end as column name. Column name can never have a space, but this allows you now to generate a new column. I'm going very fast here. I will actually do a proper SQL course, like a full 1 hour only about SQL. Maybe not in a live stream. Maybe I'll just prepare it. Who knows? But I will do that as well. And then we go a lot deeper in SQL, and we will build it up from the ground. What we want to check here is when I'm just going to keep it simple, query like, and then we're going to use this operator where I type in the hackers, what are they called in English? And you type in a percentage. Then you type in your brand name. This is the simplest form of checking if a query contains something. And I'm actually going to show this to you. I'm going to say query, comma, which is very important, always a comma behind the column that you're referencing. Then this, and let's just limit it to, well, let's do 100 results for now. Well, let's try this. What happens now is I'm only getting back the query column and the new column that I created called column name. And the column name here, you could replace with obviously anything you want. In the filters, I like this to be called query type. They have to be with an underscore if you do a space. No spaces allowed, no hooks or anything. Just use a space. Or if you prefer, you can do it like that if you're coming from Python, for example. But this is the generic way of typing things in SQL. What is happening here? Let's just try something. Here, I'm just going to say rooster. So that was my initial brand name. And now we need to find a word that has a rooster in there. So let's just do that. And query is, actually it's the same query. And we need to do this. What we're now going to see is that every keyword that contains the word rooster in there, no matter where, here you see reading rooster, focus rooster, rooster blog, rooster reading, it actually got made to say in this new query column query type the word this. So what if this was my brand name? I would call this brand, and everything else I would call non-brand, for example. You can remove, for example, this one. The percentage sign on each side of the word means find this word no matter where it is in the full string, in this case, the query. If I do it like this, here you're going to see something changing, because this one is the same still. It's still rooster. So actually, because I removed the percentage from the beginning, it doesn't match anymore the keywords where it's not at the beginning. So in this case, eros rooster, because there's something before the word rooster, now is considered the else. So I could now also say, actually, for completeness sake, I could say where query contains, for example, Michel, that's also brand, right? So if I would run this and I would add query, whoa, like Michel, do it, then, oh, that actually should be an or. You can ignore all this, but this is just to illustrate stuff. Now you can see that Michel Kant, Michel, and anything with rooster is considered brand, with rooster at the beginning, but stuff with rooster at the end or somewhere else in the string, it is not considered brand. And that's because of this specific case when then statement, and that's how we call that. And this is literally how we are getting this specific filter here. So if I would open up Datastudio and I would open up the data set, here we have it. So this specific filter, this is literally how it's built. So now that we have this, and we have actually the query type in there, we can create this for many more. So we can do what did I write down? We can do query type, but you could also do this for pages, right? So now we're only looking at queries, but we could also look at pages. So let's also add the page in here. And then what I very often do is I'm just going to say, okay, copy this, and then let's just rewrite it. So now we will say page type also. Add page type in there. You can already see that the screen is getting smaller because you're writing the SQL here. You have some results on the bottom. You can always move it down. We want this page to be other pages. And then you can do here, you can replace this for page and page. And you can add in take any match that you're thinking about. So you probably have category pages. If you're a web shop, you have category pages, you have product pages. So I can imagine that you might have something like product in the URL, or maybe you have, we always had CBC and staples in the URL. This was a category page. Then this I want to be called a category page. And this I want to be called a product page, if it's there, obviously. In my case, I will have a blog, and I will actually call it a blog page. Blog. Let's have a look. What does my URL structure look like? No idea. Just have like the pages, and on the home page, we actually have post in the URL. Okay. So let's do this like post. And the other page, this is strategy, is all the URLs around SEO strategy, just to illustrate this. And then we also had a page about data, which is big data. Okay, I'm just going to call that data then for now. Data page. This is SQL, right? You will be writing, you'll be typing, it's not something that is magically there. You need to think about how you want to categorize things. So how do you want to report? How do you want to build your dashboard? Like, what are the filters that you need? What are the graphs that you want? Because this can be a filter, but this could also be a graph where you show clicks, and then you see the three different page types, right? you see in my case, the data page, the SEO strategy page, and the blog pages, and you see where most clicks are coming from. I'm going to leave it like this I'm just actually going to add some other data. So now we also want to get in the date. When it happened, we want to get in the sum of the clicks. We want to get in the sum of the impressions. We want to get in the, now Google is going to give an error because we need to group by. And that's very nice from Google that they always tell you exactly what's going wrong. And you can find that here. And let's leave it like that for now. Obviously, you can add in the CTR and you name it. So now we need to add in on the bottom a group by, and it's going to be a group by page, date, query type, and page type. I can run it now. Now I'm getting all the data. So actually don't do it like this, where you look backwards, look forward. So where the date is larger than, let's say, 2020, 01, 01. So that means that you will from now on always have this data. Like I don't have all of, like I could add in actually search type also as a final one, search type. It's also there, and that needs to be again also grouped by search type. So now it's generated, and I see that I didn't create names for this, so that's funny. When you see F0 underscore F1 underscore, that means that you need to say, okay, these are the sum of clicks as clicks, and the sum of impressions as impressions. And if you then again command enter or control enter, run it, or click on run on the top here, then now it changes the names to clicks and impressions. You see the queries, the query type, the page type, the search type. So we now have everything here. Now we can again explore, send the data to Sheets, go to Looker Data Studio. That's still not what we want to do. We actually want to save the results as a BigQuery table. This is one way of doing it. You can literally just click this, find the SEO underscore reporting that you created, and then create a table name. That means that every day you need to manually create the table. So you have to run it, store the table. That's not what we want to do. We want to go a little bit more advanced. We want to actually create a table or append to it based on the last day. But let's for the sake of this video just keep it like this, so we can actually also show the connection with BigQuery. So I'm just going to export this to SEO reporting, and the table name, if my browser doesn't block, and the table name is going to be GSC test, not without the capitals, GSC test. Export started, and now it is there. You can actually click on go to table, and then here you see all of the data that you just stored, that you just created. There's 24,000 rows. You know, it's quite an amount of data in there, but it's only 2.5 megabytes. And now it's even easier to go in here and actually start filtering this data and experiment with this data, which you can easily do. But so we created this. Now let's go to Data Studio. Looker Studio, I mean, keep calling it Data Studio. Make sure that you are in the same account. Create a empty. Sorry, quickly filling this in. Where am I? I'm in the Netherlands. How many countries are there? Where is the Netherlands? There. Okay. Going accord. Nay. Good. Now you can continue. So we open up a new platform or a new table or a new page in Datastudio. And now we can actually go to BigQuery. So you don't go to Datastudio themselves, you actually go to BigQuery. Then you can find all the projects that you have access to. You click the one that you have access to, that you have actually just worked on. You go to the page, the data set where you stored the data. And then here you can see that I have GSC test that I just created. Then you add it. It's possible that it asks for a little bit more of a confirmation. And that's it. So if we're making an update to the other table, for example, in a week, I'm going to run it again. I have extra data. It will automatically refresh it here. There are ways where you can just run a query every day without having to think about it, and the data gets refreshed every day. I actually do give that query for free when you sign up for Flipstream. So if you want to get a sneak peek, you can get that, learn from it. Or you got to wait for my GSC training, my SQL training, where I will explain a little bit more in depth what you can do in BigQuery. And now you have all your data here. So now we have the URLs. Now it's set to record count, but obviously we can set it to clicks. And we can add a dropdown. We can, instead of page, let's do page, we do a query type. And there you are. You have customized the data that's coming in to that you can use, that you can filter, where you can literally build the filters that you have up here. And then from now on out, it's just a matter of working out other filters that you want. These buckets for positions is a case when then statement. Case when position is 1 or lower than 3 or equal to 3, then it's bucket 1 to 3. If the position is higher than 3 or lower than 7, it's bucket 4 to 6, right? So that's literally an extra column that you add to the data set in BigQuery, so that then you upload it into Looker Datastudio. Another big reason why you would do this processing in BigQuery and not in Datastudio, it makes Datastudio faster, because you can actually, obviously, you can do some of this manipulation also here, right? By just adding another field. Here, you literally write SQL, because this is case when, what did we do? No, we don't have it. We don't have position here, but let's say impressions is lower than 10, then low impressions. When it's higher than 10, then high impressions. This is exactly the same as what you would do in the SQL in BigQuery. In BigQuery, it allows you to be more structured with it. Yeah, it's an infrastructure. It's built into the data set, the data itself. So when you're going to use it somewhere else, if you need to have a quick, if you need to do a quick analysis, it's available for you. Everything that you add in the front end needs to be parsed in the front end, which means that it's heavier. They need to think about it. And it also means that it becomes slower because of that, because it all needs to be done in the memory of the browser and not in the memory of BigQuery, which is someone else's computer because it's hosted in the cloud. I think that's it for now. We come to an end of the quick demo on how to set everything up, how to get your data inside of BigQuery, how to get your data out of BigQuery and into Datastudio. The next step would be to go one level deeper, more specific only about the Datastudio layout, how to make it pretty. But the core of what I've just shown is always the same. Also, if you're using other data sets that you want to get into BigQuery, it always will be this way. And this is how you connect eventually that Datastudio to your data. We can imagine, or at least I can imagine, that it's tricky, right? Writing SQL, that it's not something that everybody is used to. So we've actually built an assistant for that. So if you want, you can actually go to flipstream.io right now and find this page, SQL Chat. We'll release it in the next 2 weeks, probably. No, for sure, because it's working. I'm going to show you in a second. Right now, it's being tested by me and some existing clients. And in 2 weeks, we're going to make it available for the wider audience. What our SQL Chat Assistant does is the following. No, not that one. This one. It's a very simple interface we're all accustomed to by now by ChatGPT, obviously. What this one allows you to do is generate the SQL that you need in order to get started. So if you're using our schema, you want to set it to the Flipstream GSC schema. If you're using the native integration from Google Search Console to BigQuery and you don't know where to start, select that one. Then type in a random question that you want to ask with SQL. So let's start simple and say, show all keywords with all keywords and clicks with, coming up with this at the moment, show all keywords and clicks with at least 100 impressions from January 2021. There's a lot of going on here, right? In technically in what you want to do. Because I didn't use it for some time, it's going to load for a second when it's being used more often. This is just how cloud functions work. It'll be super fast. Now we are literally using the schema that our system knows about Flipstream, and we're generating at the best we can the SQL that you need in order to execute this query. Of course, when you do a live demo, there it is. So here it is. It literally generates this on the fly for you based on the question. Select query, get all the clicks, impressions. It even adds the CTR here, and get the position from a specific data set, because we know which one you're asking, so we can already pre-program that. From above last year in this case, and impressions is more than 100, because that's what we've asked for, right? And then it needs to group it by query and position, because we did math. Good one, actually, to remember. If you do math, you always need to group by the other ones. And then it also orders it by. You can copy this, and you could paste it into BigQuery, and it will run, right? Let me just show you that to prove it. The only thing I will need to change is this. It needs to be here. See, Google approves it. I can run it, and the data will come back. So you don't, like, there is no data because I don't think I had more than 100 impressions on any of my keywords. But yeah, so this works, right? The query is solid. You can learn from this. You can use it as inspiration. You can ask it any question. And I'm really excited about this because I think this is something that can really help everybody to start using SQL more, because SQL is not hard. The hard part of SQL is getting started. And that's where this framework is for. If you do actually want to be able to copy it, you can just type in your project ID here. And if you then generate it, then actually it will replace it here. And so that as soon as you copy it, it's literally good to go and test if it works. If it doesn't work, you'll need to play a bit with it, because sometimes obviously the reply is not exactly 100% correct. But yeah, we're improving on this. It's getting better over time. I wouldn't showcase this if it wasn't better. Like, I can actually show you one that is specifically for Google. Which one is that? Doesn't matter. We can actually ask this one, for example, and it also works already in Dutch. You can also do it in Dutch. Now we're actually using the Google Search Console native integration. And as you can see, it updates also here, the data set that you're using. And now it's how do the number of clicks and impressions vary by different countries? Well, group by countries, get the clicks, get the impressions, the positions, the CTR. You can remove this one because that's us. We are trying to optimize our algorithm, of course, and we want to, for example, be able to implement when you type in long tail, what is the definition of that, right? Right now, it's just outputting it as a query. So yeah, it's really, really cool to have this. I think it's really helpful. And with that, I want to conclude the live stream for now. I am going to have a quick look if there are any questions that I can see. I see that Ruben asked a question, and I think I can even pull it on the screen. Can you give an estimate, maybe a range of the monthly BigQuery costs for exporting and storing the data for large e-commerce websites? I don't know if you're still here, Ruben, but if you are here, that's a good question. The answer is a little bit like John always says, it depends. A large e-commerce website. So let me put it like this. You're talking about euros, maybe tens of euros. If you're using, if you have like 30 properties and, like a large e-commerce store can be 30 properties with not that much volume per property, but together it adds up. But you could also be, of course, like one large one, or all of them are large, and we're maxing out on the Google API. So for example, we can't pull in even all of the data. If you get there with one property, you're not going to be paying money still. You're still going to be in the free in the free tier of Google. You saw that I had 10K, 26,000 rows, and it was 2 megabytes, right? So it's very hard to make an estimate upfront on what the cost will be. But the costs for companies who are like so large, who are probably making millions, or at least in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, you're still talking less than $20 a month. And it really depends on how much you're using it, right? Google's costs for BigQuery are not in storage, like literally 1 cent per gigabyte per month for every, like all the data that's older than 3 months. The costs are mostly generated by querying it. But then if you're querying it so much and you're using it a lot, then there probably is a really good business reason why you're doing that. So you're probably becoming more efficient, faster, you get more insights and better insights. So, the only thing that I could really say about that question is monitor it. Google has a very decent way of monitoring the costs. You could even export the costs that you're generating with BigQuery to BigQuery, very meta this, and create a dashboard on top of it so that you are actually, that you can just check it every day basically on what the last day did in costs and which type of queries are actually generating those type of costs. So yeah, that was a good question, but it's always a hard question to answer. Thank you for that one. I see that at the moment was the only question. So yeah, I'm going to leave it like that. If you have been watching the whole time, thank you very much for sticking around so long and watching it all the way till the end. In general, thank you for watching this very first live stream. I hope you liked it. Let me know on LinkedIn. If we're not connected, find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. And yeah, if you're looking to get some support with your SQL, make sure to go to Flipstream and sign up for the waiting list so that you, as soon as possible, when we release it, you can have access to our SQL chat. Thank you very much, and see you probably on LinkedIn. Bye.